Mute. Okay. So being able to be outside the box in the way that you think, that's a gift right there in itself. And this warfare on the mind is, okay, good. I'm glad y'all can hear. Okay. So the warfare on the mind, okay, the warfare against the heart, a lot of us just have a difficult time attracting people into our reality who are like-minded individuals, people who want better for the community and for themselves, and people who will actually take the time to learn things and share things. Like there are no words really that I could give that will encompass the way that we feel about the author of The Functionary, Dr. Blynd himself. And so we're going to welcome him on and let him just have the floor. It's whatever he want to do, we can do it. We can talk, we can interview, whatever. But we want to welcome Dr. Blynd, the author of The Functionary, the master. He is the funk professor, the professor of funk, baby, Dr. Blynd. Yes. Okay. Turn this around. That's your seat. We have to get you a chocolate seat.
All right, all right. All right. Lovely view. Okay. Lovely view.
Look at that. Maybe we can spin around. Let's look at the view, y'all. The mighty Mississippi. Yes. The mighty Mississippi.
Well, Cam and Ernest, thank you all for such a lovely intro and the invite as well. I haven't been to Memphis, and I think I was telling Ernest since about 2010 we had a family reunion here.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna have to check those records. We might be some kids.
Yeah, you might be that. Very possible. And yeah, so I have family here, and so I always enjoy when I come here.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And you know, when just before we even get into anything, because I really kind of want this to be more of a very informal kind of type of thing. I don't want to necessarily. I didn't have any set thing that I wanted to really.
That's how we like
do or say or however we get into this.
That's
but
spirit talk.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, you know, when we first, started communicating, I just really felt something that's like, just the genuineness of what you all were doing was just off the chart. I mean, that was just something. And for me, when I know that someone, like you say, listen with your heart, we communicate mind to mind, but we commune heart to heart.
Absolutely.
And so, it went shifted straight down from mind straight to the heart.
Yeah.
And I was like, these are some lovely folk here. So I said, I got to rock with Cam and Ernest. Yeah. Right. So I appreciate all you're doing, all that you all are doing. It makes those of us who kind of came before you all, if you will, in terms of the consciousness movement. It makes us feel good that, that the seeds are harvesting in the hearts and souls and minds of those that, a lot of us did a lot of sacrifice to try to reach, to lay foundations for those folk to come along like yourself to take it to another level.
Yeah.
And so, want to give you all kudos, for that and appreciation. As well.
Yeah, we feel the same way. When two generations merge the way of what's happening now, that's immense.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Now, a lot of times someone, people will say, just in various discussions, they'll say, well, what, not necessarily me, but what do you think is the part of the challenge of us being in the position that we're in? And, after giving it some, not too long of a thought, the lack of transmission of intergenerational knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
And I think you might have touched on it a little bit earlier. I think you mentioned about intergenerational knowledge. And so when we don't have our own institutions, our own platforms to control the narrative, control the knowledge, the wisdom, there's just been so many brilliant minds who have done a lot of work in different ways, some more known, some lesser known. And, you know, while they were here, they were doing what they were doing. But then it's like, you know, because of their, you know, conditions, whether it was health or financial or whatever, they, you know, died in relative obscurity or poverty. And, you know, all of their, you know, information, I won't say all of it, a lot of it just, you know, went by the wayside and nobody has aggregated it in any kind of way that could be constructively passed down. So, you know, when we look at what are the things that we can do to help our situation conscious-wise, elevating our level of consciousness individually and collectively, and also to do the things that we need to do and one of the things I was going to talk about briefly, because, you know, this isn't, you know, it's not the forum necessarily to go into anything really in depth, because that's more of a, like, you do your classes and things of that nature. But the whole notion of power, and, you know, I'll speak on a little bit on that in just a little bit, but for right now, those are the things we have to look at. We have to look at the things that we have in place and don't have in place, do a gap analysis of it, and find ways that we can, you know, as a people, capture that information and make it available in ways that is more readily available to consume. You have to package some things in ways that are attractive to the people who you're trying to reach, you know. And so, and you don't want to necessarily get in with marketing and gimmicks and things of that nature. But one of the things that when I initially came to kind of pulling a lot of this stuff together, the concept of University of Chocolate City and, you know, self-education, that whole thing, and, you know, the psychodynamics of evolving consciousness and things of this nature. You know, I said, well, wouldn't it be cool if there's a way to make self-education cool? You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I kind of conceptualized University of Chocolate City. Make it some, you give it a little bit of flavor, give it a little bit of fun, you know, some things that, and so it was, man, and I lost I had a University of Chocolate City like ring, man, man, and you know,
we got to bring that back.
I don't even, oh, it's gonna come back.
Yeah, you got to bring that
definitely. Back. But in any event, just make things, you know, appealing. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes it's just like in the old, well, it's happened throughout history. Sometimes you have to educate people through humor and different other ways to, you know, to get the message across. So, but one thing that I will do, if you don't mind, is that I just put this in. I just came up with it. Was it Sunday morning? Sunday morning. Okay. And I've gotten it up in the updated version of the Funktionary, and so I'll just do it real quick. And you know, this is no rush. Yeah, gotcha. And this is something that I think folks may relate to or relate with. So it's called Arise and Shine. Between a grace note and a ghost note, we remain soundly mysterious, yet so profoundly touch each other like a voice that gave an echo its wings, to fly, not to fly, and soar like never before. You heard? You may say we have a braided destiny, an interweaving of parallel intentions and perpendicular objectives, chasing and often running from the blissful anarchy of spirit. Tapping a vein of gold remembering, as natural mystics, we leave our shadows, unowned, unclaimed, and unprocessed aspect of ourselves behind. Stardust we are, rippling electromagnetic waves of light frequencies, undulating into the gravity of humanity's low tide, both a joyous and perilous freedom ride. Some say our chances of both individual and collective awakening, spiritual transfiguration, into our true nature, Homo Divinitas, is slimmer than a ray of light and dimmer than the dark of a moonless night. Heavy the load we bear, yet in our mirrored likeness, startled by a remembered brightness, and refracted through a prism of ancient wisdom, we behold the impossible for what the whispering wind says is impossible to hold. Fractured light spinning bright through a dynamic, ever-shifting kaleidoscope of tragedy, love, fate, and hope do our tattered souls ineluctably grope. On the surface of things, the world keeps spinning on its axis. But who's to know, and who will know to ask us? Agape, core, holds it all together, and the Tao lets it flow. Water flowing, a cascade of consciousness crashes and breaks through eternity, yielding a serene flow, surrendering to playful unexpectancy, the spontaneous beauty bliss of all you never expect to see, yet remain moved by it because you can never be removed from the unfolding uncertainty of it all. How deep into silence can you go before you're here to hear what it has to say? Silence holds the answers to every unasked question. Besides, who's going to question silence anyway? Only in stillness can you reach the center of your dream to decipher what it means to you and for all you reach. The pages of your life are your holy scripture. The seasons of your life, your rhapsodic song. Golden tears of joy and sorrow dripping down the face of years you faced and weathered, with or without facing up to what draws or calls them out to fall. Emerald dreams of our wildest schemes and most captivating scenes elude us of their secrets, but not before one thing grabs and grapples for our rapt attention, while being nothing short of simply amazing. All it takes is the faintest intention, an ember of love, to set each other's lives blazing. We can never possibly make any mistakes. We experience what we need precisely when we need it most to learn, unlearn, and grow into greater awareness of love. Nothing that is meant for you will pass you by, nor remain longer than your lesson and growth needed to be derived from it. From mystery into the manifest, may we learn to serve and be a blessing to each other, as we ourselves too be blessed in that selfless service. May love be drawn irresistibly from your core and poured back into it even abundantly more, divinized by and through the very surrender to the way and the guiding light. May this shimmering fabric of infinite wisdom be a raiment, and this body of pure love so suddenly reawakened as your own, in the cadence of your own time, and be shown and seen as a luminous reminder to all of the resplendent reflection of your own shine. In the realization of being free from sin and finding the kingdom of heaven within, you will see the beloved in the eye of everyone.
Whoa.
So that kind of came to me the other morning.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of put it.
That's amazing.
Just kind of put it down there. I thought it would be, appropriate to put it in there to like a lot of things you were just talking about before.
Yeah.
You know, in a number of different things. You know, don't be so down on yourself. There's the things that are going on there. There's reasons why all these things are happening. You know, the opportunities for you to get to the next level of consciousness and all these different things, new opportunities and creating your reality.
Absolutely.
All of this stuff. So, you know, it's yeah. So that's
powerful.
yeah. I thought it was just one of, so sometimes, so things, for instance, when I put the book together, some things are they are more poetic, some are more prosaic, some are just based on insight, some of them are based on research or filtering some of the research through the different layers of or lenses that, you know, you come to have over time through experience. And, you know, there's no substitute for experience. You know, that's how you learn.
It's true.
You know?
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I have put in the Funktionary over the years is really, like I've tried to maybe explain to other people. Maybe I don't know whether I've mentioned this to you or not. Is that, you know, it's really a catalyst for people in their own journey, in their own in their own evolution, you know, of consciousness. Things that I may not agree totally with things that I you know, entertain myself. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm sorry. It's a phase that you have to just kind of bounce off, and as you grow and learn and unlearn, and you live and you apply the knowledge, which, you know, where that's the wisdom, you know, is the product or the byproduct of the application of the knowledge, and just over time, you know, hopefully those things. So what I try to do is just open people to various angles of understanding, things that you may have not looked at in a certain way or at a certain level, and then also make a lot of different connections and interconnections, because the more dots that you can, you know, create, well, the more dots that you can form, you know, a clearer picture, the more clarity that you're going to have. And then, just like you were saying before, there's a lot of, I don't know whether you said this, but this is what I got from it. Yeah. And you're spot on with it. There are a lot of things that are there that you are not, that are there that you have not developed the ability to sense or see. Exactly. To understand that they are in place and that they are there. And so you're able to, the more that you're able to do that, then you can create a lot of those dots that are just not necessarily visible to everyone, unless you're at a certain level of consciousness or know where to expect some. You can almost expect some the more you do this, you know. It's true. Yeah. I think that was one of the biggest elements, was the language was taken away, getting the language back. So if I'm not mistaken, it took you 13 years of just compiling. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right. And that's where the core of it. And that was probably from, you know, maybe from let's say 94 up until maybe the early, late 2000s, like 2007 or 2008, somewhere. That's where the bulk of it really. Yeah. And then, so what I do now is really, it's like, you know, if you're building a house and you've got the framework and you've got the blueprints there, it's been there. And then you've got the foundation, and you've got, you know, how the rooms are divided, and then you got furniture. So I'm really at the point now of just decorating, if you will, you know, putting more things in to make them more appealing, a little more attractive, a little more comfortable, you know, different things like that, so to speak. So stay ahead of the time. Right. Yeah. And so and in doing that, so essentially what I'm saying is that most of the what I call them, I call them meta concepts that I have in here, things that are very important that have broad implications to your life are in there. So without kind of going into any real depth or analysis of the book or how I wrote it, but there are layers, there are stratifications that I've put in so that I can catch people at different levels. So that, for instance, if I get somebody at a much more rudimentary or not, I won't say unevolved, but you're just getting started. That is still enough for a person that's been studying metaphysics for 50, 40 years that they can still, there's still enough in here that I've written in a way that'll catch them too. Right. So that they can benefit from it as well. Not so much so that it will be like, oh yeah, well, I'm familiar with that, but it's like they might be familiar with something of it, but they like, wow, well, I hadn't put this together with that. I hadn't made that connection. I didn't really look at it in that kind of way. So I've written it in ways to try to get people that it will resonate them no matter where they are in their level of self-unfoldment.
So that's the timeless feeling that we get when we read through the Funktionary. So another question would be who was some of the inspiration? Because when I'm reading it, I feel some pimp coming through sometimes. I feel a little mix, and I'm loving the mixture of the energies. It's like you observe and you infuse it.
You are so spot on, Pam. I'm going to tell you you're spot on, Pam. I'm going to tell you're spot on. It's like, for instance, I have in here, like at the beginning, this was early on, like I have, where it starts from, where I start with the words in section A, the soul of sound definition. That's what the function, what I mean? And when you were talking about sound earlier and everything's vibration and frequencies and things of this nature. So, yeah, I took, I would have to take a lot of your time to really go into how in depth it is, but you are spot on with that. I took a lot of different elements of our culture and projected it into, or so that it would be a reflection of not just my own, but to infuse some of that, so it doesn't seem that it's just so much just me personally, if you will. It's being filtered through my experience of reality and Black culture from the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s on up. And, but it's and a lot of it was informed through music. I was just so enamored with a lot of the music from the 60s and the 70s. I grew up on all that, and as I mentioned before, my brother was 3 years older than me, so he had access to a lot of music and we even had other folks that were in the neighborhood that were even older than he was. So I got introduced to Jimi Hendrix and Earth, Wind and Fire and Pharoah Saunders and Sun Ra. And then we had where Orangeburg, South Carolina, you had South Carolina State College and Claflin. So, and this was before a time where Black professors and educators, they just, they didn't have the opportunity to teach at a lot of the predominantly white institutions. So you had a brain trust of people across disciplines, whether it's science, the arts, and all that kind of type of stuff. And just brilliant minds. And so the culture, I like to say that I kind of hit the lottery with that in terms of the culture and access to just a broad brush of it early on. And so music just moved me so much. It just really became an aspect of what the functionary is. And so much of what, you know, undergirds Black life, you know, is by way of the drum, is by way of sound, by way of rhythm.
That's right.
And the cadence. And
right.
so, yeah. And so I did that. So I threw some other stuff in there, man, you know, because I come from a family of, you know, I won't say practical jokers, but we understand the value of humor and wit, you know, and things of that nature. And so I threw a little bit of that and just try to make it entertaining without it being, you know, something that would just seem, you know, like it's, you know, just a means to be entertaining.
Right.
You know, I want you to learn, and through that learning process, enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a byproduct. You know,
exactly.
And so
it just works magically.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that a lot of I've got, you know, get very, very, you know, great responses from it in different kind of ways, where different people are doing different things. So I still, like, you know, I mentioned I still put stuff in it. You know, I'm still I've got about, you know, I've got a lot of information I still have not actually, you know, typed into the manuscript, because I'm always, you know,
We told y'all this was going to be an ever evolving thing. Because more stuff is coming.
Yeah. So, you know, and the extra stuff that's coming, you know, it's not, it's still very substantive. You know, it's not like it's just add on to it. You know, and you know, I don't. You know, if I wanted to add on, if I just wanted just other stuff, I mean, I could have had that a long time ago. But what I'm trying to do there is a DNA that is in the functionary that I do not want to disrupt. So if I just start trying to do something just for the purpose of trying to, you know, market it different or do these different things to make it something other than I'll be going against what it is, and I will disrupt the DNA, and perhaps it won't get the same type of
reaction.
So that's why when I do write and add the things that I do, it is the same DNA. You would be able to see it or feel it. Through that. So before you get into any other questions you might have, I'm just going to touch on the thing of power real quick.
Yes, please.
All right. So essentially, power has really not really been looked at from the academic field and from thinkers, because it is so much taken as a given. There's two types of power. There's power to, and then there's power over. We have been under, for the past 5,000 years, under the power dynamic of power over. All right. And what happens is with a power over is that there is mind control, there's wealth, and there's force. These are the three elements, and you can look at it almost like a layered cake, but they are substitutable because they act as a basis for each other, depending on what needs to happen to stay in power for those, the dominant minority elite, to stay in power. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about power. You know, the power dynamics, or the power differential. So when sheer force is not enough, what will happen is that it will shift down, and mind control, propaganda, conditioning, indoctrination, all of those other different things. Because if you allowed it, people could, if you strip it down, people can see when they're being exploited if you don't have that mind control in place. They can't, the more that you have the mind control in place, they can't see the shackles. They cannot, whether it's, you know, physical or mental. And so the power two is a creative power. Okay, that is our natural ability to create, to want to cooperate, to create, to benefit all, benefit yourself and others. Organizing power, and this is still part of the power over. Organizing power is, or you know, the I won't say the characteristics, the things that have the organizing power are nations, corporations, the banking cartels, you know, so forth and so on, empires, and they last for generations, lifetimes, about hundreds, thousands of years, depending upon what, you know, how they actually do it. But what the organizing power is what prevents us from being able to overtake and create our own systems that allow us to be able to create the types of lives and the types of institutions and the relationships. We want to be in a position, if we are let alone, to be able to generate our own wealth and not have it taken from us.
Absolutely.
Because that's exactly what's happening. See, people think that just because they can't see things being taken from them, that it's not happening. When nuances of it, but when they can create the symbol that acts as a claim on your and everybody else's productive capacity, they in effect own everything that you will produce prior to you even manifesting.
Exactly.
All right. So, you know, we have to really look at, there's a thing called, it's the parapometrics. It is the science of power and control. And so what we really need to do, and I try to break some of that down in the functionary in different ways. Some things lend themselves to being able to some things lend themselves where you can understand the concept. I may write enough for you to understand maybe the concept and maybe some of the implications of what that concept is, but there are certain things that need a whole area unto itself of study. And just like you said, I got to break this down, and when I decode it in this right here, you have to go, you have to do a deeper dive. So what I try to do, though, and those some of the things I call those meta concepts. And so those things I try to set as much either through explaining it or through ricocheting it against or juxtaposing it against other concepts after I say, you know, see these other different terms. Right. To try to generate a little more momentum to understand the broader implications of those things and how some of those things interact. Just like, for instance, people, if you did not necessarily, do a deep dive into the nature of power, you would not understand how, wealth, force, and mind control are the implements and instruments of that. And how does it all fit in together? Why is force necessary, or force and wealth, or different variations of it, and when do those things come into play? You follow me? To continue to maintain the inequities in life, because the 1% should not own more than 90% of the wealth. You know that it's what kind of game is going on, right?
Yeah.
And so because if it's an even playing field, even with something being rigged, it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be that much of a disparity,
exactly,
or a gap between those who have and the have-nots.
Exactly.
Of that nature. So, and when you're looking at power, so you have to really look at, all of those different things, and we have to become more scientific, not in the sense of so much academic, but we just have to be more rigorous and analyzing and trying to problem solve things that tether us in ways that we don't fully comprehend.
That's right.
And so I try to do that with a lot of the things in the functionary, to just show how we are tethered by different things and the ways in which we can do different things to try to problem solve and put ourselves in better positions so that we can be more of the captains of our soul, captains of our faith.
It's like the thing about the power structures that you were just mentioning, which is really interesting, is that within these power structures, ironically, the very things that we steer away from are the tools that support the power structures.
Very true, absolutely.
So now you have a time where the Roman Catholic Church now has a black pope put in, who's really a Jesuit.
Right.
Right. So now we see the power shift there, and that's a power play.
Right.
And then we have the what do you call it? We have the indigenous people of Antarctica and Alaska summoned to the Vatican to perform their rituals for fertility and wealth to return back to the planet.
Wow.
And the Pope gave them a box that had a plant in it. And I wish I could figure out what it was, but I remember so keenly feeling they had a representative from every tribe on every corner of the planet come to the Vatican. This was 2 months. This was right around the Lionsgate portal, August 8th.
Okay.
So they were using that Syrian energy, which is what they used to channel the Declaration of Independence that was used during this Syria's rising. So that's how they were able to get these contracts. They're using these astrological alignments, whereas a lot of people are not looking to the celestials for information.
Right. Yeah. Very, very much so. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of those things are just so intertwined, and we